Good evening. It is 7 p.m. Tuesday, July 10th, 2018. This is a public hearing of the Speedway Board of Zoning Appeals. I am Mike Simonson, Chairman of the Board. Other members in attendance this evening are Mike Allen, our Vice Chairman, Janet Fullen, and Steve Jones, both members of the Board. Also with us this evening is Michelle Leidy, our Recording Secretary, and Bob Clutter, our Town's Attorney. Representing the Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development Planning Division is Ms. Kathleen Blackham. Have all who wish to speak been sworn in?
They have.
Thank you. Would all please mute or turn off any cell phones at this time? Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rules for those who wish to speak this evening. The petitioner, remonstrators, or proponents will each have 15 minutes to present their evidence. After their presentations, we will then hear from Ms. Blackham from DMD. After her presentation, there will be a 5-minute rebuttal period for the petitioner, remonstrators, or proponents. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our previous meeting. Have all had a chance to review the minutes from our previous meeting?
Yes.
Are there any changes or corrections? Seeing none, they'll stand as printed. Tonight's petition is a continued variance from our June hearing, 2018 UVS 005, 5252 Crawfordsville Road, also known as Big Red Liquors. Will the petitioner or their representative step to the podium and please state your name and address for the record?
For the record, Chairperson and members of the board, my name is Tim Oakes. I'm an attorney with offices in 1 American Square, Suite 2900, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46282. Here this evening on behalf of the property owner, which is a member of the Lohr Corporation, a local developer, and also the operator of the proposed liquor store, which is Big Red Liquors. As stated, we're requesting 2 variances to allow for a liquor store at 5252 Crawfordsville Road, which is real close to the intersection, right there at the intersection of Crawfordsville Road and Lyndhurst. You know, this is not my first time in front of a board requesting approval for a liquor store, and certainly not the first time for Big Red Liquors. So I'm not naive enough to think that there are not issues with liquor stores. Unfortunately, there are operators out there, quite frankly, that don't operate liquor stores, quite frankly, in our opinion, properly, and they give the rest of the industry a bad name. But liquor licenses to operate liquor stores are a function of the state law. There are a certain number of them issued based on population and a certain number of them issued for the town of Speedway. And those are available and will always be available for anyone that wishes to purchase the license to operate a liquor store. In that context, it becomes, I believe, incredibly important to have a liquor store operator that is a good operator, an above-the-board operator that's going to do things the right way. And what's before you tonight includes Big Red Liquors, which is that kind of operator. And with that, I'll introduce Don Ricks, who is the CEO of Big Red Liquors, to say a few words before I continue the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. My name is Don Ricks, like Tim said. I'm here on behalf of Big Red Liquors. I've been in this industry actually about 6 years. I came from Mars Supermarkets. I spent 33 years with Mars Supermarkets, and at the last part of that career, I was in charge of pharmacies. So I'm very, very familiar with controlled substances. And I never envisioned myself, where it wasn't a career path, to go from grocery stores to the controlled substance of a pharmacy into liquor stores. So when Marsh was kind of going down, just things happened, and one thing led to another, and I found myself in this industry. And it's really been a fascinating industry. But one thing I'm very, very proud of is what we do. And I think regardless of how this goes, to be very honest with you, we don't want to be where we're not welcome. I take what I do extremely seriously. I would strongly encourage you to check with the state ATC, Chairman Cook, and just ask him about Big Red Liquors, ask him about Don Ricks. This is a controlled substance. This is an important thing. This is when this subject, this isn't bread and milk. And when it's misused, bad things happen. So, you know, it's a tough business. It's an interesting business, and I'm here to tell you we take that and will continue to take that as I hope everyone would. Unfortunately, I don't think they do. I think the industry has some improvement to make, and certainly Big Red has those too. But we strive every day that we get up to do it the right way. I would also encourage you, I personally work with Drug Free Marion County. They're, you know, again, I'm sorry for my redundancy, regardless of this, everybody understands, I hope everybody in this room understands that we have a big drug problem. And what you read about that in our state is serious. I work with Community Health Network on drug addiction. I work with, because alcohol is the #1 gateway drug. So when everybody, sorry for trying to take advantage of the podium, but it's important to me that when you hear about Indiana's the only one, and we want to expand alcohol, we want to open this, and we want to do gas stations or whatever. I take that very seriously, because what you're here to debate, you should debate very seriously, and you should debate it in good faith. And I'm just telling you, like Tim said, for the property owner, liquor licenses are liquor licenses, and somebody's going to open that. Somebody's in this community is going to open a liquor store, and doesn't have to be right there. It's going to be somewhere. And I think, and I'm a little biased, but I think that any community would want Big Red Liquors instead of others. And please don't take my word for it. I'd really strongly encourage you to check with the authorities who regulate this industry. So with that said, and again, I apologize I love the podium, because when I get a chance to talk about addiction, remember, alcohol's #1 gateway drug to what we've got in the state. So I appreciate the time and any consideration. So thank you.
Thank you.
So a few points I want to make. This site is Zone C3, but interestingly enough, and it's part of a very small strip center that's Zone C3, but interestingly enough, the uses that are adjacent to it are C4 in nature. That is, there's a auto repair shop to the north, I'll say, closer to Lyndhurst, and then a body shop directly adjacent, which is a C4 use. And this building, which is only 2,040 square feet, really 1,900 usable square feet, is squeezed in between. So we're squeezed in between two uses that are C4, and trying to market and sell that as a C3 use is a hardship. And that hardship is reflected in the fact that the current property owner has been trying to sell or market, in either sell or lease this real estate, this building now for 2 years, and has been unsuccessful in doing so. And this is an owner that owns strip malls throughout central Indiana. They're not someone that is going to overprice. They know the market. They know what the market rates are, and they're having difficulties trying to sell or lease this space in large degree because of those two adjacent uses. It is what it is. It's also, I think, important to note that this site was once a liquor store, and for quite some time, as I understand, it was a it was a liquor store. So we're not introducing this use for the first time. The difference here is that a few years ago, the ordinance was changed so that liquor stores were no longer permitted in a C3 district, which they had been for, probably 30 or 40 years, and now only permitted in a C4 district. This operator, Big Red Liquor, owns the packaged liquor store for the town, and with that license, doesn't matter if it's Big Red, if it was anybody else, they need to locate it somewhere. And I passed out a zoning map for the town of Speedway. The town boundaries are in red. In order to locate a liquor store in the town of Speedway, it has to be, by right, it has to be in a C4, C5, C7, or Speed Zone 1 classification. The only spots in the entire town where a liquor store therefore can be located by right are those areas shown on the map in front of you in pink. That's it. Big Red Liquors owns and operates a liquor store in the large pink area further out on Crawfordsville Road, closer to 465. They also operate a liquor store just outside the town boundaries at 10th in Lyndhurst as well. And so where else are they going to put this? It doesn't make sense to put it directly next door to one of their existing stores. So they've got to go somewhere else. And the sheer lack of areas of space that are properly zoned to allow this is a difficulty that has to be overcome here in order to open up this particular liquor store. So, all of the operations for this liquor store will occur in the front of the building. It has been used as a liquor store before. Crawfordsville Road is a major arterial. That is what it is classified as under the Marion County Thoroughfare Plan. It has thousands and thousands of vehicles on it in a day. The traffic generated by this operation is insignificant compared to the existing traffic. It doesn't generate much in the way of noise, certainly no more than any retail use. No dust, no odor, no vibrations. Anticipated hours of operation would be until 10 o'clock on weekdays, and then until usually 11 or midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. So we do not believe this will impact the surrounding property owners. The surrounding property owners, we don't think, would notice any difference between this store operated by Big Red Liquors and any permitted retail use, again, if the property owner could, in fact, find someone to go into that space. We don't think it will be injurious to the public's health and safety and welfare based on the comments that you heard from Mr. Ricks. We don't think it will impact the surrounding property values and the use of the surrounding properties. It just doesn't generate sufficient traffic, odor, noise, dust, anything of that type. We're not asking for any variances from the sign ordinance. We'll comply with those should this be approved tonight. We'd like to continue to use the site for what it once was used for, and that is a packaged liquor store. So with that, we'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that the board might have, and we certainly thank you for your time.
So how many potential employees would be working per shift in the building?
We have generally the daytime for us, it's a very small location for us, so it's probably, we have a rule never to have less than 2 from 4 o'clock in the evening on. So regardless of how the business dictates from a safety perspective and just company policy, we have 2 employees in our stores in the evenings.
Okay, now, if there are 2 employees working, presuming they drive themselves to the the business for their shifts. Parking already is basically non-existent. It's a very restrictive use or number of spaces available. So if you have 2 employees minimum driving and parking, that doesn't leave much parking for any potential customers.
No, it's very, very tight, it's very, very small.
So it just, for viability, it just doesn't make sense in that the ingress, egress of that strip center is also probably one of the worst in the town. Just because of its proximity to a corner on both ends of the drive and traffic.
It's my understanding.
Streets is very, 4 lanes divided, that's,
Yeah, it's my understanding that the businesses adjacent to it will close, I think sometime at 4 or 5, and that would open up some availability, but it's, to your point, it's very, very tight space.
well, from my view of driving by it recently, one of the businesses tends to overwhelm the parking lot on its own.
Yes.
And that's one of the hardships that we're dealing with here. I mean, what is the owner supposed to do here? This is a commercial property without any question. It's zone C3. There's a litany of retail uses that could go into that space, and the owner of the property would be thrilled to have someone. I mean, that property is owned in order to make money. The problem is it's been vacant for 2 years, and we, from the owner's perspective, we finally have a user, a good citizen of the community, someone that operates a liquor store the right way, that's ready to give this a try. And after 2 years, that's what we want. That's the. You're right. It's a real problem, but we finally have the ability to put this property to use, make it viable, which is what you want of any property. I would think in the town of Speedway, you don't want it vacant. It's not good for the community. It doesn't generate any taxes. It doesn't generate any revenue. It doesn't do anybody any good.
So, how would deliveries be handled? Most of the vehicles that deliver products to retail establishments are very large box trucks.
Yeah, we have multiple avenues to do that. We do have box trucks. We have some very small sites. We operate downtown Indianapolis. We really just adapt to per sites. We've had vans deliver. Some of our bigger challenges is working with the vendor community, but they've always been very cooperative to understand the unique parts of every site. So
I'm just envisioning either the alley and back being blocked or the driveway for the other businesses in that strip center being blocked.
well, like I said,
With large trucks making deliveries, and that's not being a good neighbor to them.
well, it's, like Tim said, it's a challenge. We've got several challenge sites, and really not that much unlike groceries, that every site's kind of different and unique, and you work with the communities, you work with your neighbors, you work with the surrounding areas to make that work. And if we have to, it's a very small site. It is not a high volume location for us. It's not an ideal location for us whatsoever. Like I said, we have one over here and one over there, and this is kind of a space that we're willing to give it a shot. When reviewing these things, we had to address all those issues going, boy, that's going to be tough, and that's going to be tough. And what we do is we just commit, it's just like open hours. If we have to adapt that to be a good citizen and be a good neighbor to the surrounding businesses, that's what we do.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
Not currently. Oh, we do anyway.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we hear from any remonstrators or proponents who wish to speak, I'd like to read a letter into the record that was received on the 1st of June 2018 to the Speedway Board of Zoning Appeals. On May 11th, 2018, a letter was sent to me regarding a petition to appeal the use and development standards for the property at 5252 Crawfordsville Road. The petition seeks to get an exception to the rule in order to operate a liquor store. As co-owner of the property located at 5242 Crawfordsville Road, I would like to register my very strong opposition to granting any variance of the standards. This is not a situation where there are no other liquor stores in Speedway. There are no other means of buying liquor for residents of the town of Speedway. There are no other options for race fans to buy liquor. There are. There is already plenty of economic competition relating to the sale of liquor in Speedway. Grocery stores, pharmacies, and actual liquor stores already provide an abundant supply of liquor, and they are now allowed to trade on Sundays. The economic benefit would be limited to jobs for very few employees and property tax income. The same economic benefit can also be obtained from other types of businesses that do not require variance of standards. Making unnecessary exceptions to standards is not best practice. Use and development standards should continue to be the determining factor in which businesses are located in specified areas. This petition is the result of a desire to change the way the standards is applied. There is no overriding need to make an exception to this standard. Thank you for attention. Adriana Passarelli. So, are there any remonstrators or proponents who wish to speak? If so, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Shani Simonson, and I reside at 1839 North Auburn Street. I just want to be very upfront and clear as possible. I am married to Mike Simonson, but tonight I am here as a Speedway resident and a resident who lives in the neighborhood where this business is being proposed. Today I'd like to speak out against the proposed liquor store on Crawfordsville Road. I know that recently a liquor store request was denied in another area of Speedway due to the close proximity of a neighborhood. Many Speedway residents came to that meeting and also spoke out about the fact that this type of business is simply not needed in Speedway because we already have so many options available in town for the purchase of alcohol. The location being presented this evening falls into that exact same category. It is not needed, and it is too close to a neighborhood, my neighborhood. The location proposed is in a strip mall that currently contains a daycare that has been there for many years. It is also an extremely busy intersection located in the heart of our town. I drive by this area many times throughout the day, and there are rarely any empty parking spots. In fact, at 4:30 today on my way home, I happened to note there was not one single spot available on the front of that building or on the side of the building. I watched a mother struggle to find a parking place to go pick up her child for daycare. That's how busy it was. My biggest concern with this location is not so much the traffic. We have Speedway students who walk past this building every single school day to get to the junior high and to the high school. This is a huge, this type of business at this location is a huge safety concern to our Speedway students, and I think they deserve better than that. Our town does not need this, and I don't think that this is the type of business that we should have our Speedway students walking by. I would ask that you please deny this request. Thank you.
My name is Jake Hoffman. I live at 1662 Fisher Avenue. Speedway is known as the racing capital of the world. Do we also want to be known as the liquor store capital? Okay. Where does this end with a liquor store at every major intersection? I understand Big Red's concern, their problem. They've purchased a liquor license, and now then they need a place to put it. They don't want to put it next to one of their existing liquor stores because that would be a problem. That's not our problem. There are places that liquor stores can be located. It's just that Big Red wouldn't fit there because they're already there. Not our problem. I don't think we need to have a liquor store going into that intersection, because I don't think we need one at every major intersection.
Good evening. My name is Vince Noblet. I live at 1851 North Auburn. Previously, I worked on the redevelopment commission for 12 years. During those 12 years, this town chose to make a change, make a difference. A lot of the buildings on Main Street reflected the same character of these buildings at Crawfordsville Road and Lyndhurst. They were built in the 40s and 50s. The uses have changed. The demand on these buildings have changed. And also, Crawfordsville Road has changed. You know, we're talking 30,000 cars now going up and down that street. I think that this liquor store does not fit a 2,000 square foot building in that specific proximity. Parking is an issue. It's always an issue in Speedway, believe me. And so you're going to be looking at, you know, foot traffic. They're going to have to park outside to walk in. And I really think that the property owner needs to take a look at the building and say, okay, is it time to make a change to that building to accommodate something that will go on in the next 100 years? And it would be, I think it'd be disheartening to see a liquor store go into that building, even though that it was an old cork and bottle liquor for years. But times have changed, and the character of the road has changed. And I think it's time for an upgrade, again, in that area, as well as up and down Main Street. So I definitely am opposed to the change of use into a C4. Thank you.
Internet, this is irregular, my apologies, but in an effort to save everyone's time, which is extremely valuable, Mr. Ricks would like to say a brief word, and I think we can end this.
Guys, thanks for, I started with the appreciation of you folks, and I'm very sincere about that. I raised two daughters. I wasn't in the liquor business. That I think there is some confusion, and I'm here to withdraw our application. It's not really my application, but I said we didn't want to be where we're not welcome. I get that, guys. I really do. I think for everybody's edification and clarification, that I tend to agree that there's too many liquor stores. This nice lady who spoke to that other site, that was us. And as you guys know, that was us. And we stood up to you then and said, we don't want to be, we withdraw. So you are going to, the state of Indiana has dictated that Speedway gets another liquor license. I'll go out and sell it. It really doesn't cause me any hardship. But I really would, I even like for the record to reflect that as we withdraw this, Big Red Liquors is very, very sincere about when I stood in front of you and said that we take this real seriously. We're not about putting kids in harm's way. We spend a tremendous amount of our time, our money, and our talents to prevent those things. So as parents, I have great appreciation for it. I really do. Just to understand that you're going to get an operator, and it's going to be somewhere in this community. So that's going to come before you. Or, well, more than likely, it's not going to come before you. It's going to go to a C4 or whatever that is. And that'll be, and hopefully, I really hope that that's, because there's great operators besides Big Red. And I hope for the town, because you got a wonderful community, I hope for this town of this, of this statue that you get a good one. So I really appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate everybody's passion, and I appreciate if you guys stay passionate about it. This is a controlled substance, and stay real passionate about it, because there's a lot bigger issues than this. So thank you very much.
Yep. I need a motion. I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Yep, to accept the withdrawal.
So we'll just, on a voice vote, all in favor of accepting the withdrawal of Big Red Liquor's petition for 5252 Crawfordsville Road, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Is there any other business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, our next scheduled meeting will be on August 1st, 2018, 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. We are adjourned at 7:30.